In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today we are going to have a great conversation about branding and AI tools and how we can get attention, on positive attention for our company. My guest today is Reid Holmes, and he is an award-winning and experienced creative director, author, award-winning speaker, and all-around marketing guru. And I'm excited to have you on the show, Reid. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Emanuel.
You betcha. Well, I'm interested to know in your agency experience right now, how are you seeing clients in terms of wanting to use AI or asking about AI or implement AI or wondering if you guys are using AI? So what's the temperature from clients?
Well, everybody wants to know if you're using it. Everybody sees it as an opportunity to create efficiency. How that efficiency best serves a business through creation of marketing is still a bit of a moving target, I think. There's probably consensus around the idea that bottom of the funnel automation and personalization is a great place for AI to live. The further up the funnel you get, the more I think you have to collaborate with it, the more it has to be a partner, not just an automated tool.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are landing. Some of the more forward companies that I'm seeing are saying, hey, we want AI first. We want to keep humans in the loop. We want to test it and innovate with it, and then see if it's meeting the KPIs that we're laying out. Are you seeing anything different in that sequence from your experience right now?
Not necessarily. I think that there's trepidation from creative people about AI. I saw a quote the other day. It said, I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not for my AI to do my art and writing so I can do laundry and dishes.
So that's so funny.
It's still kind of like a moving thing. And, there's a lot of watch outs, and it's very different. A lot of people compare it to, well, the typewriter didn't change writing, or, even the internet has done a lot, but it hasn't changed humans, basically. This is a big deal. This is a bigger deal than any of those things, in my view, because you're taking thinking and automating it. I mean, I'm someone who, I get frustrated when technology tries to predict what I want.
Sure.
And it eliminates my ability to kind of go, well, here's what I want to do. When it automatically does it for you and it doesn't quite work right, it's more of a frustration. And that's one of my fears with AI, is that in the efforts marketers go through to try to make it efficient and helpful to them, the mistakes that are made in that process will cause frustration and erode brand value. That's a real danger. Yeah. I think frustration, and I wrote this in my book, frustration, marketing is saturated like never before. And consumers are frustrated. We used to get 300 to 500 messages a day. And back in the days of the soap opera and those days, we kind of appreciated that, because they were like new innovations and new things that we wanted to learn about, because they just didn't exist before. We now have an electric washing machines. How do I make that work the best? Nowadays, we get 10,000 messages. We are being pinged and dinged and interrupted at every turn. What will AI do to that? Is it going to put it on steroids and make every brand just this ubiquitous kind of nuisance? or is it going to help eliminate that saturation and make only more relevant things pertain to you in terms of the interruptions you get?
Yeah.
And in that sense, maybe that's a good thing, but it also runs the risk of eliminating options from people that the algorithm may not know or predict that they might want. There was a study. Where is it? I had this. Harvard Boston Consulting Group did a study. They found that when people over rely on generative AI, the collective divergence of ideas drops by 40%.
Sure. Yep.
New ideas don't come to the surface, which means innovation is being stifled.
Yeah.
That's a danger. That's not good. And the companies, in my view, that understand the power of a great creative mind to create an unfair advantage for them and their brand, they will still do better. Because, I mean, if you think about it, AI is everything that's already happened. AI is learning from everything that's already happened.
Right.
It by definition, it's looking backwards and trying to, create something or summarize something or, do things that humans find mundane in some ways. But creativity is the combination of two things that didn't exist before,
Right.
Essentially. And if you're not able to do that, and that takes an artful mind, and it takes a human mind, because that's where the delight and oddness comes from. I asked AI to write me some jokes, and it was like flat. There was nothing sparking there. There was nothing that was just like, oh, that's fresh, that's different, that's new.
Right. Yeah.
So in the world of creating work in marketing, it has to be treated as a partner, because you're never going to get to that fresh, different place.
Well, it's interesting. If you don't mind, I'd love to dig into what your personal creative process is. Like, how do you take a fresh project and what's kind of your personal step from like blank piece of paper to an initial test campaign or initial output?
It all depends on what the ask is, for
Sure.
starters. If we're looking for a big differentiating platform idea, AI can help kind of scour what's out there and where there might be some open space. So it's more of a strategic tool in that sense.
Yep.
From a creative, 1 + 1 = 3 perspective, you really have to kill brain cells to get there. You can't just wait for AI to give you the solution, because a lot of times, and when I was writing my book, it's interesting, this may have been corrected, but over the last year, I was writing this book, and even before I sat down, I said, hey, AI, could you list all the books on this topic in that are out there?
Yep.
And it listed a few, and I'm like, oh, bummer. I guess I shouldn't write this book because it's been done. And it made it up. Those books don't exist. They didn't exist.
Right.
And I looked further. Had I not looked further, I would have probably been discouraged and not written this book. But
Interesting.
yeah, so there are still some kinks to work out, and it seems like to me there always will be, because if AI is built by humans and humans are by default imperfect, AI will never be perfect.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think that is, and I've talked about this a lot, is that our job, I think, at being incarnate humans, is to create and do stuff, right? And so we're always in this push pull, and especially in this advent of thousands of tools every day, where it's like save time, less work, do it automatically, blah blah blah. That ringing that bell, but at some point we have to, like you say, kill brain cells and create something and write the worst shit that's ever been written on a piece of paper, and then make it better and be creative and get feedback and be dynamic in our brains and our creation.
Yeah. I think that there's a danger here that it just can be relied on kind of and followed out the window, so to speak, and that's just not going to get anyone to a good place. I think it's a great tool. I think it has a huge potential for us. It's a game changer for humanity, quite honestly. But the world of interruption, the world of advertising and marketing has always been a world of interrupting someone else's audience so that you can borrow them for a second and tell them what you have. And that has predominantly been about paying money to get people to care about you. And I believe even in the age of AI, your better bet, and this is something I talk about in my keynote, it's a flip, I call it the flip. It used to be that attention drove impact. Getting attention drove impact. And you'd pay for that attention for the most part. That's what advertising is all about. My belief now is that you need to create impact to get attention, because there's so much noise. It's just crazy. And how do you get impact? How do you create impact? You have to appeal to the things people already care about. So if I don't care about, laundry detergent that gets my whites, 3 shades whiter, which is kind of like an expected, kind of appeal. That's just a different way of saying white or whites. It's the next version of that, but it's very rational. AI cannot get to that emotional place. Emotion is where great brands play, get attention, get people to care about them by proving that they care about the people they want to attract.
And that they understand that those people, right? I mean, that's what we're looking for is the shortest possible conversation to get the outcome that I'm looking for without having to fill in all the blanks for somebody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to mention is if you, I don't know if you know who, or any of the viewers know who Rory Sutherland is. He's an Ogilvy strategist at an agency called Ogilvy. One of my alma maters. I went through there twice, and he is just incredibly. His observations and his points are just so acute and so wonderful, and this one really resonated with me, because when I wrote my book, people are like, well, what are you hoping to get from your book now that it's published? And I'm like, I got what I wanted, which was the process of writing it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The process of thinking about what is my idea and what does it mean, and how can it help the world, and what do I think about it, and is it worthy and yada yada yada. And his point is, and he talks about, maybe as a student you were made to write an essay, and he can say, I can guarantee you that as a student all those essays were crap, but it wasn't about the essay. It was about the process of writing the essay. It was about the questions you need to ask and the books you need to read and the effort you need to go through to get to the end point. Those are the valuable things. Yep. And if as a society we stop doing those things and just hop to the end, then the learning stops. And then if you become someone who calls himself an expert on something because you've got all this AI generated content and someone really presses you on it, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to turn to your AI and go, how do I answer this question? You need you need to have, and I don't mean to be disparaging of AI and its tool, but I'm just saying, let's be careful.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, and I did an episode with a college professor asking him how the 20-somethings are using AI, and he said from being total knuckleheads where they're not even deleting the prompt they wrote in the answer there to using it as the tool that it is, as a research tool, and and the whole spectrum. So it really is, again, it's a technology, and those of us who can spend time thinking about it and using it for what it is valuable, which is the backwards view, an idea starter, a way to take your book and put it in there and develop 10 LinkedIn posts from your own work. I mean, to me, that's a great use of the tool, right? but it is not a replacement for sitting and going through the process that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what are 2 or 3 things that a small brand, a small business can do based on the things that you talk about in your book. What does that look like?
Well, for if the idea that impact creates attention is kind of the center tent pole of this whole idea of mine, which is called appreciated branding.
Mm-hmm.
And that is doing things that attract attention by virtue of them being worthy of the values of the customer you're trying to attract.
And what's an example of that?
So an example might be, and this is, I don't remember where I heard this, but I have this in my book. There's a guy, a real estate agent, who wanted to build a business in a certain community. And he had bought all the bus benches and he'd bought all the billboards and he was sending out direct mail and he couldn't get arrested. And he learned that in this community where he wanted to get a foothold, there was a garbage strike. So he decided, you know what, instead of spending all this money on bus benches and billboards where I'm not getting any kind of attention, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to pay for someone to come pick up this garbage for these people because it's piling up and they see no end in sight to it. Yeah. So that was an act of generosity, an act that created impact, and it got people's attention.
Sure.
And he didn't go out and say, he didn't leave a card that says, this garbage picked up by your friendly real estate agent, Bob Johnson. He just did it.
Yep.
Which I think is even more authentic. And what ended up happening is people were like, oh, the strike's over. And then neighbors were just like, oh, it's not over. Well, who picked up our garbage? And then, it started a conversation among these neighbors. And someone said, well, it was this guy this real estate agent just did it, and, oh, well, we should call him and ask him, tell him we want to pay for our share. And whenever he'd get those calls, he'd say, you don't have to pay me, but if you ever need to sell your house or if you ever know someone who wants to buy a house, just, think of me.
Yeah.
He had $1 million book of business in a year.
It's genius.
So it's finding those things that break through very meaningfully with the people you're trying to attract. And it's about showing them that you care about them, not trying to convince them to care about you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love that. It's the next level emotional intelligence and action from a business and then not chest pounding once you do it.
And, another example, and this is an example from a mentor friend of mine, Steve Lowell, who I've been, he's a speaking coach, and he's been helping me because I'm getting out there to try and speak on this subject more. Hint, anybody. But he has this story which is really classic positioning and classic branding, and it is also about proving that you care about people, but in a different way, because it's really just messaging. And I always talk in my book, I talk about there's things you say, there's things you do, and there's things you solve. And the higher up in that pyramid you get, the more people are going to care about you over your competitor.
Yep.
But there are things you can say too that can create appreciation. So for example, he had a tennis pro who wanted to build a tennis lessons teaching business. And he came to Steve and said, I can't get any traction here. I'm out there. I'm saying tennis lessons, call this number. And what they ended up doing is they said, well, wait a minute. Isn't there a constituency of people that might really benefit from this, from tennis lessons? And they came upon the idea that there's a lot of parents out there who have young kids who could just use a break. And I've been there.
Sure.
And so they marketed him as giving tennis lessons to kids to both tire them out, teach them a lifelong sport, and give mom and dad a break. Yep. And so when he went from who wants tennis lessons to who has young kids and could use a break, all of a sudden his business started growing.
Sure. So
that's another way to think about it for smaller businesses.
Yeah, I think the fundamental I'm hearing is that a lot of small businesses want to talk about their engineering of a product or how they do stuff or what they do, and we really want to talk about the outcomes that we're producing for the people that we're serving.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of sitting down at the bar and saying to someone, you know what I did today? I was fantastic. I sold 1 million different, whatever, versus, can I buy you a drink? Let's talk about you. What's going on with your world? Like, your hair looks great or whatever. It sounds, I don't know, crass or cliche, but there's a reason that generosity gets attention. There's a reason that generosity pays off in the end, because genuine interest in others is what creates relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what brands are. They're relationships.
Well, I love it. Reid, how do people get in touch with you if they want to buy your book, get you to speak, or have some marketing questions for you?
You can email me at Reid, R-E-I-D, at appreciatedbranding.com. You can visit my website, appreciatedbranding.com. I've got a freebie or two there. And my book is available on Amazon. Just search Appreciated Branding and it's there. And I'm here on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn page called Appreciated Branding, where I'm posting inspirational things that if you want to follow. The most recent was one of the most recent ones was a Pizza Hut decided that their pizza box could help kids moving into their dorm by making the box, cutting it so that it could be made into legs, so that your pizza box becomes a little table for your pizza.
That's awesome.
Cool. Like owned media, so to speak. So
love it. Well, Reid, thank you so much for taking time to talk. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck with the book and your speaking engagements.
Yeah, and in fact, let me do a little. Here it is.
All right, love it. Appreciated branding.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Emanuel. I really appreciate you having me. It's been a fun discussion.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.